Writer Peter Milligan and artist Mike Allred's X books have a unique place in mainstream superhero comics history. Their collaboration is two offbeat creators doing away with a pre-established and beloved superhero team, creating entirely new characters and doing what they want in a way that doesn't gel with a house style. Even now, the Milligan and Allred mutant collaboration from X-Force, X-Statix and X-Cellent stands strong in its own bubble. As always, all of my videos and the transcript for this essay can be found on my website, witsendpod.com. How did this collaboration even start? Let's go back to 2001 and talk about X-Force.
When I was first talking to Axel about the possibility of doing X-Force at the time, before it was X-Statix, and telling me that Peter and I would be creating completely new Marvel mutants, right in that first phone call, I immediately started just doodling out these characters. And in there was this flying potato, and I did a word balloon and just wrote, "Doop." Next time he talked to me, he told me, like this, Peter likes this design, we're thinking of having this character be this. Go-Go Girl, well, You Go Girl, I originally wanted to call her Go-Go Girl, and I guess there was somebody else had a Go-Go Girl or Go Girl or something. And so Peter came up with You Go Girl. But initially, Axel said, I think we can use all these guys except, I don't know, I don't think, we're not going to use this flying potato thing. And that's fine, you know, it's just stream of consciousness.
When Milligan and Allred took over the X-Men spin-off X-Force with issue number 116, it caused a bit of a stir. Before X-Force, Milligan was pretty active in 2000 AD, wrote an Elektra series at Marvel, and regularly wrote Vertigo titles like Human Target and his darker take on Steve Ditko's Shade the Changing Man. He would go on to write a run of Hellblazer in 2009. His writing explores human nature, personal identity, and social and cultural commentary. Eclectic cartoonist Mike Allred, the Doctor of Ginchi, published his own indie comics like Madman, Red Rocket 7, and The Atomics, mixing his love of philosophy, pop art, Silver Age comics themes, and David Bowie. He usually works with his wife and colorist Laura. I shamelessly refer to them as the Scott and Barda of comics. X-Force number 116 took 115 issues of continuity and tossed it out the window, replacing the old team with new characters and a new visual and narrative style. Allred's style is distinctive and Milligan is not one for continuity, instead focusing on razor-sharp commentary. This issue is known as the comic that killed the Comics Code at Marvel. In short, the Comics Code Authority was established in 1954 and was a way for publishers to control the content that was allowed in comics. There's a whole list, but violence, sex, and drugs were frowned upon. The Comics Code was used to infantilize a medium that didn't need infantilization. In 1971, Stan Lee decided to publish an issue of Amazing Spider-Man about drug use without the Comics Code symbol on the cover. It wasn't until X-Force number 116 in 2001 when Marvel would do that again. With that comic, Marvel would never use the Comics Code label again. It's not as if comics started getting more mature with X-Force number 116. EC was already publishing mature stories in various genres in the 50s. Vertigo and Milestone helped usher in a new age of mature comics in the 90s. There were two versions of X-Force number 116 published. One of them had the triumphant, "Hey kids, look, no code" in the corner box. Number 116 does more in one issue than most superhero comics do in a year. Readers would be introduced to a brand spanking new team of mutants with characters like the acid-puking vein heartthrob Zeitgeist, the acidic sweat-slinging anarchist, the blue teleporter You-Go Girl, green blob cameraman, and international sex symbol Dupe. Also Battering Ram, Plasm, Jin Genie, and others, only to have the team killed off and replaced all over again in X-Force number 117. This would be a regular theme in the collaboration where Milligan and Allred train readers to remember that no one is safe.
You know, Peter has this great knack for going really dark, but retaining a sense of fun at the same time.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted to just completely let loose and just let Peter pull me in that direction. And Axel was very much involved in that collaboration too. So we were constantly finding ways to push and push.
Like a lot of comics, one of the best parts of X-Force is the letters page. Readers wrote in furious that X-Force was changed like this. Number 117 even had the original X-Force fight the new version over the copyright of the X-Force name, a self-aware critique of the changing times. That said, not everyone who wrote in hated the new take. The teleporting mutant Edie Sawyer, or Yugo Girl, got some love in the letters. Guy Smith, aka The Orphan, aka Mike Allred's self-proclaimed self-insert, is another fan favorite. The series went from being a serious by the numbers X-Men spin-off to an endearing satire about superheroes where the mutants are reality TV stars. Throughout the collaboration, Milligan and Allred scrutinize and parody fame and celebrity culture while mixing in pathos to their endearing mutant team. They also tackle racial, sexual, and mutant identity and comment on hip-hop and celebrity culture and anything related to the clout-chasing consumerism of early 2000s reality TV performers. Mainstream comics tends to become self-serious and remain in its comfort zone. Well, okay, maybe Milligan and Allred aren't for everyone, but their self-aware and more lighthearted take is refreshing in an industry that pretends the same old is new and exciting. Being lighthearted doesn't take away from the soul of the series either. The Anarchist says it best in X-Force number 116, quote, "Internal conflict, struggles for ascendancy, personal enmities. Isn't that the kind of thing that keeps people interested in us? I mean, we can't be fighting bad guys all the time." Out of the many roles this series plays, it also becomes a romance comic, sparking a sweet romance between the super-sensitive Guy Smith and outgoing Edie Sawyer. Darwin Cook even did an entire issue dedicated to their relationship in X-Force number 124, an issue that has more emotional nuance than a lot of superhero comics of the time and since. In X-Force number 128, Milligan and Allred made the shocking move of killing off arguably their most popular character, Yugo Girl, during X-Force's mission to space. Unlike a lot of deaths in the series, it's not played for laughs, and Guy Smith carries his survivor's guilt with him throughout the series. There would be a lot of hate mail about Edie's death. Allred and Milligan not only cut Guy and Edie's blossoming romance short, they ended the X-Force series entirely. In X-Force number 129, the final issue of the series, it's revealed that before she died, Edie told Guy she wanted X-Force to change its name. In honor of Edie, the name is changed to X-Statix number 1 brought in a new age of superhero storytelling. A month after the final X-Force, the new team made its debut. The issue picks up right where X-Force left off, but is accessible for readers who started with X-Statix. Guy Smith is still reeling from the loss of Edie Sawyer. He's tasked by X-Statix owner, eccentric trillionaire Spike Freeman to recruit a new teleporter named Venus de Milo for the team to boost ratings. The first issue does a good job building up the team and focusing on just how much of their lives are focused on approval ratings, mass marketing, and consumerism, showing the cartoonish level of excess in this lifestyle. Milligan and Allred also set up two sets of antagonists for this first arc. There's xforce, which is another team of mutants X-Statix needs to compete with for ratings. The other is a young reality-bending mutant and disgruntled X-Force fan named Arnie Lundberg who terrorizes his small town. He's upset with the new status quo and is the embodiment of all the hate mail this creative team has gotten since X-Force number 116. As a fan of Yugo Girl, Arnie also represents a part of the fandom that was disappointed by her death. Like X-Force number 116, X-Statix number 1 is dense, exploring Guy Smith's survivor's guilt and discomfort as a leader and establishing the new teleporter Venus de Milo's origin. Darwin Cook has a great backup story where Duke takes rejected X-Statix recruit Corkscrew to the woods and goes full-on Patrick Bateman on him. The first arc is called Good Omens, which dives into fan reactions and the changing status quo. Arnie decides not to kill the X-Statix when he's offered a place on the team and changes his name to Fanboy. Guy Smith orchestrates a way for Arnie to die in action, which redeems him to the public as a hero. This is a common theme throughout the stories, where members are a product to be sold and killed off for ratings. Despite Allred's pop style, this book never shies away from the cutthroat nature of the entertainment space. Arc 2 is called Moons of Venus and covers issues 6 through 8. It's a story focused on Venus de Milo's origin, powers, place on the team, and relationship with Mr. Sensitive. This is the arc where Mr. Sensitive's survivor's guilt gets the best of him, where he reaches his breaking point and leaves the team. When Guy goes into hiding, a new antagonist, suspiciously called Bad Guy, shows up to cause havoc. Since this is a story about reality TV, Guy gets smeared and is thought to have gone rogue. X-Men fans might read this series and wonder how X-Statix connects outside of being about mutants. Charles Xavier has a major role in this arc and makes regular appearances throughout the series, making it feel like a real X-Men book. Wolverine has regular appearances throughout the series as well. It's revealed that Professor X helped Guy and Venus control their powers and designed suits for them. The arc starts with Professor X helping Venus search for her family. When her powers manifested as a child, Venus thought she killed them with her teleportation. Professor X believes they were sent to another dimension instead. While Guy is missing, Tyke Alucard gets promoted to team leader. Guy never wanted the position as shown in X-Force. These stories have so many moving parts but remain coherent. The arc wraps up with Bad Guy revealing that he's a version of Venus's cousin Jamal from another dimension. He's kind of a manifestation of her guilt. When Venus defeats Jamal, she's able to teleport and reunite with her family who have been living in another dimension. She's able to control her powers and make peace with the fact that her family is still alive. While Guy isn't over Edie, he and Venus start a relationship together. It's never revealed if her family actually makes it back to Earth. After the Venus arc, the team starts recruiting new members. Number 9 sees the development of the X-Statix movie, where an actor saves Guy from being murdered on set. So Mr. Sensitive decides to recruit this sentient skateboard-wielding mutant named El Guapo after he saved Guy's life. El Guapo, also known as Robbie Rodriguez? This isn't a stretch or a coincidence to say that this character is based on filmmaker Robert Rodriguez because Rodriguez and Allred know each other. In Allred's Atomics No. 2 from 2000, he talks about how Rodriguez was working on a Madman film. The film was in development hell for years, but never got off the ground. But G-Men from Hell got made, which is a topic for another time. El Guapo isn't even the craziest X-Statix character based on a real person. More on that later. Robbie's arc is supposed to be this corruption of the innocent, taking a genuinely good person and putting them through the X-Statix machine, drowning them in fame, money, sex, and power to see how long they can stay grounded. Number 11, which is a strong standalone issue, shows how even El Guapo isn't immune. X-Statix member Dead Girl gets a powerful one-shot in number 12, featuring inks by Philip Bond. Her whole arc, which is a common Allred theme, is someone figuring out how they died and what their purpose is. It's when a high school student is shot that Dead Girl decides to become a guide for the dead in the afterlife. The story ends with Dead Girl summoning restless spirits to haunt the girl's abusive father. The infamous next arc, Back from the Dead, is controversial and made international headlines, in that Princess Diana was brought back to life as a mutant and joins the X-Statix. Let's go back a little. In 2003, it was revealed that Princess Diana would be resurrected and join the team in X-Statix No. 13 with an arc called Die Another Day. Buckingham Palace called it, quote, utterly appalling, and, quote, a cheap attempt to cash in on Diana's fame. Even the British tabloid The Daily Mail felt the need to get a piece of the X-Statix hate. Milligan wasn't fazed even with the backlash. He responded to the criticism in a 2003 article he wrote for The Guardian. Quote, so I thought it was time we had a real dead girl in the team, and clearly, Diana was made for X-Statix. Someone who is famous for being famous. In the world of the X-Men, the mutants are feared and hated. In X-Statix, they've turned this around and made themselves stars, glamorous, rich, and powerful. That seems to me to be pretty much what Diana did inside the royal family. That said, Marvel released a statement that Diana would be removed from the book. The 6-issue arc would be renamed Back from the Dead. Diana was retooled as a resurrected pop star from the fictional Europa named Henrietta Hunter. Some of Allred's pre-edited artwork is available for comparison. Henrietta's mutant power is revealed to be super empathy. In a comic where a guy has a sentient skateboard or a guy with acid vomit, it's not much of a stretch. Henrietta immediately becomes a threat to X-Statix because she outshines them with her altruism and philanthropy. Henrietta is treated pretty well. The iconic number 15 cover art was changed, but Diana's influence remains strong in Henrietta's character. There are still quite a few references to Diana in the story, with subplots based on real events. Henrietta speaks out against landmines, which took the legs of a boy in South America, similar to the real Diana's landmine walk in Angola in 1997. Milligan and Allred use Back from the Dead to clean house before their big final arc of the series. X-Statix members like Spike Freeman, Henrietta, Fat, and El Guapo are killed abruptly. In number 18, the final issue in the arc, Henrietta comes back as a zombie when her spirit realizes that record executives are cashing in on her death by putting out unreleased music. Milligan and Allred give Henrietta her final revenge against her government and record label who wanted her dead. By X-Statix number 19, only 6 members remain: Mr. Sensitive, Venus de Milo, Dupe, Dead Girl, Anarchist, and Vivisector. The arc in issues 19 through 20 is a quick breather, a heartfelt 2-part Vivisector story where Miles gives up his mutant powers. Issue number 20 is fun because Nick Dragotta does the pencils, with colors by the Allred son Han. Dragotta's art is a nice change of pace because it feels like an intimate Steve Ditko monster story from the Atlas era of Marvel Comics. It wraps up Miles' arc by making him fully accept his mutant abilities, which has been an inner conflict for him since the early X-Force issues. Milligan and Allred save their biggest arc for last. Number 21 through 25 features an international crossover with the Avengers. This feels like it was prompted by low sales, since the book ended up being cancelled at 26 issues. Allred and Milligan go all out, sending both teams to brawl across the world and put Dupe's exploded green brain chunks back together. This arc serves as a comparison between Silver Age and postmodern comics and is a parody of crossovers and superhero tropes as a whole. Even as a crossover pushed to increase sales, Milligan and Allred tell a dense and self-aware story. It doesn't feel wasted. The matchups are inventive. Anarchist faces off against Captain America, Venus de Milo fights Ant-Man, Dupe ends up fighting Thor in Asgard. X-Statix number 24 features the greatest fight in superhero comics: Mr. Sensitive and Tony Stark fighting in the fields of a French monastery of nudists, while also in their birthday suits. Never has people throwing blades of grass at each other looked so kinetic. The series ends in ruthless X-Statix fashion, in a blaze of non-linear glory. Number 26 has a somber yet bombastic tone. Readers and the team know that this is the last issue. The X-Statix are given a chance to retire in peace, but decide to take one final gig. Mr. Sensitive knows the job is dangerous, but leads his team to one last payday. The X-Statix storm a mansion of random gunmen in a way that's reminiscent of X-Force number 116. Anarchist and Mr. Sensitive watch in horror as their teammates drop around them. In a twisted and inspiring way, they comment on how people like them prefer going out in a blaze of glory than a quiet retirement. The end of the issue shows the team teleporting to their gig, leaving only an empty stage behind them. In 2019, Marvel dropped giant-size X-Statix out of nowhere with the original creative team including Milligan, the Allreds, and letterer Nate Piekos. This one-shot felt completely random but appreciated. At the time, I wasn't expecting X-Statix to ever show up again. I was even more surprised that the story was new and not a flashback. In a tongue-in-cheek way, it's never explained how Mr. Sensitive, Dupe, and Vivisector survived the mansion massacre. Dead Girl is an exception. The one-shot follows the old guard recruiting new members like Fatty, a female reboot of Fat, Mike Alucard, son of the deceased Tyke, Rosa Lemper, a German mutant made of concrete who was born when the Berlin Wall went down. Funny enough, there was a mutant in the original X-Statix series who is made out of the Berlin Wall. Finally, there is Edie Sawyer's daughter, Katie, who becomes the new You-Go Girl. Not only that, but Zeitgeist is back for the first time since X-Force number 116. He's been alive this whole time, has his own team of mutants called the X-Cellent, and will do anything he can to upstage X-Statix for petty purposes. I thought giant-size X-Statix would be the end of that, but at the end of the issue there was an announcement for a new series, an X-Statix continuation titled X-Cellent. Also, the reading order for the reunion is confusing for people who haven't read it. The order is giant-size X-Statix, X-Cellent number 1 through 5, and the X-Cellent number 1 through 5. This is from a 2020 interview I did with Mike Allred explaining how and why the reunion happened. Quote, "It all started because of Deadpool 2. Peter and I talked about returning to those characters for years, but when Deadpool 2 tapped into our X-Force build team kill team gag and utilized Zeitgeist, it took us from talking about it to doing it." In 2022, Milligan and Allred dropped X-Cellent number 1. This series is just as bloody, ruthless, self-aware, and fueled by cultural commentary as the original. The biggest difference is that while the original series is all about satirizing the reality TV and celebrity culture machine of the early 2000s, its follow-up came out neck-deep in the social media and influencer age. The basic story is how Zeitgeist wants to gain a lot of social media followers so he can attain godhood and overcompensate for being left behind by the times. This series makes fun of influencer and social media culture, showing how people will try anything online for attention. The non-stop battle for relevancy in a world of shortening attention spans. The X-Statix were living quiet lives out of the public eye and only came out of retirement to stop Zeitgeist, who is pulling every stunt imaginable for followers by kidnapping people, breaking into prisons, and generally being a public nuisance. It does fit with Zeitgeist's character. This reunion reveals just how much of a creepy megalomaniac he is. There were signs of it in X-Force, like when he mentioned disliking mutants that didn't look human, or when he could only do the deed while watching videos of himself in action. It was less apparent because he was the protagonist and team leader, so there was some benefit of the doubt there. X-Cellent removes any doubt and just shows how far he's fallen and how he's been this way deep down the whole time. He's kind of the best part, not because he's good or respectable, but because he embodies the desperate clout chaser types Milligan is commenting on. He's a complete car wreck. He's just so awful. He's abusive, misogynist, and treats his team as disposable, and wonders why people don't like him. X-Cellent is more about the antagonists at times. Each member gets developed pretty well and has their moment to shine. The commentary in the original series felt more subtle and fresh than in X-Cellent. X-Statix was the first book to do what it did. Other books followed in its footsteps to where it doesn't feel as original anymore. While the moments of brilliance shine through in X-Cellent, a lot of the social media related commentary feels outdated and on the nose. There is an idea Zeitgeist throws out that no matter how awful he is, people will still support him, which, as crazy as it sounds, happens in real life. Milligan quickly tosses out the social media commentary once Zeitgeist uses magic to attain godhood. Zeitgeist uses a spell stolen from Doctor Strange, and honestly, I think this is just an excuse for Mike Allred to use Strange in another comic. It's happened a few times now. The ending feels rushed when another X-Statix member returns abruptly to get rid of Zeitgeist. The X-Cellent number 5 doesn't really give much resolution to the X-Statix characters. Whether they're coming back is up in the air. My essay covers the main books in Milligan and Allred's collaboration, so X-Force, X-Statix, and X-Cellent. The books with X-Statix characters I left out include the Dupe Wolverine series, drawn by Darwin Cook, the Dead Girl series, which is technically the real X-Statix sequel, and the Dupe series. All of these are written by Milligan. Dead Girl even appears in a Doctor Strange spin-off called Strange Academy as a connection to her spin-off series. The X-Statix series takes place alongside the Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely X-Men run, so the Black Leather X-Men era. Both series, despite being very of the early 2000s, are ideal companion pieces, showing different perspectives of the mutants. Milligan and Allred's team is very much commercialized and in the public eye and create more novelty. The Morrison and Quitely team is more of the mutants that people fear because they're hidden away and unknowable, a more grounded serious take than a satirical one. In the back of X-Force number 116, Marvel editor Axel Alonso mentions how the Milligan and Allred team are the first mutant team to realize Professor Xavier's dream of harmony between humans and mutants. They're just accepted for being famous, but it counts. This run was a new era in the mutant mythos. There's a theme where the final issue of each arc is done by a guest artist. Regular Milligan and Allred collaborators like Darwin Cook, Duncan Fegretto, Paul Pope, Nick Darrington, Philip Bond, and Nick Dragotta. While they're guest artists, these issues don't feel like filler. They build up the characters and move the story forward. The Bond Yugo Girl flashback story in X-Statix number 10 feels like it could have had its own spin-off and even sets up possible future stories. Milligan's writing is sharp throughout the series, but his work in those X-Force issues is really special. The new direction was a risk, and it paid off, despite the hate mail. His writing in X-Force does so much heavy lifting, so X-Statix can take off. Seeing Mike and Laura Allred's progression from X-Force to X-Cellent is fascinating. Just seeing the art become more fluid with each issue. They keep getting better. Mike Allred even sneaks little Madman references into X-Statix. Laura Allred's current coloring style is really distinctive by itself. I've talked about and written about this before, but there's a sheen to it. There's a signature style there. Even when she's not working with Mike, like Joelle Jones's Catwoman, it's like, oh, that's Laura Allred. Even Nate Picos's lettering becomes more complex, seeing him develop his craft. The fact that these characters have even come back for a reunion series after all this time is astounding by itself. From day one, Milligan and the Allred subverted expectations when they took over X-Force. It's pretty rare to have a team of original characters take over and replace a beloved book at a mainstream company. To not have to follow a house style, with a consistent creative team and a pretty solid random reunion over a decade after the original series ended. The characters get to age in real time, ignoring however many reboots Marvel has had. It's a pretty special collaboration. As always, my videos and the full transcripts for each of my essays are available on my website, witsendpod.com. If it's not on my website, it's not me. Thank you to filmmaker Martin Vavra for contributing the Mike Allred interview clips. I've linked the full interviews on Martin's platforms. Share these essays around. Thanks for watching. Chaos ensues.